following program has been produced by the Philadelphia College of Bible.
Christmas is a very happy time, and so there's no reason for us to be sad and confused and so forth and so on. So for the next few moments, let's remember that Christmas is a happy time, okay? And just go along with whatever is involved in the next few moments. A number of years ago, I started preaching a sermon on Twas the Night Before Christmas. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But last year, one of the students gave me a new text. My old one was getting run down, and so I now have a new text on Twas the Night Before Christmas, all to be colored. And so the students are now coloring it for me. And so I have all nice, lovely pictures in my new coloring book on Twas the Night Before Christmas. Now, the reason for this is quite obvious. I have for years taught preaching. When I was at another school a number of years ago, I taught preaching. And then when I came here, I taught up until about a year ago how supposedly we are to preach. And so whatever I do, I must do as a preacher. So I just must always make everything come out basically as a sermon. So this is how a rather confused, stereotyped father like myself would have to present this to his children if he was called upon to present Twas the Night Before Christmas to his children. Now tonight we want to look at the very famous text, Twas the Night Before Christmas. Now what we want to see is that this text is presenting to us a declaration concerning Santa Claus. And in this declaration there are three movements. There is first of all the preparation for the coming of Santa Claus. Then there is the coming of Santa Claus. And then there is the description of Santa Claus. So listen very carefully as the writer communicates this declaration concerning Santa Claus to us. 'Twas the night before Christmas. Now notice what the writer has said here. He lets us know right at the very beginning that it was the night before Christmas. A very special holiday. You see, it will not do that this was the night before Thanksgiving, or the night before 4th of July, or even the night before Mother's Day. This is the night before Christmas. And notice that the writer has also said, 'twas the night before Christmas. This is not a night. This is not one of the 12 nights of Christmas, for instance. This is the night of Christmas. Now watch, continuing. When all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Now right away, the author has let us know that this could not be Mr. Clement's home. Because the mice are always running all over that house. So the writer continues. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care. They'd been worn for 2 weeks and they needed the air. No, that does not have good manuscript reading. That is really not the best rendering there. Really it says the stockings were hung by the chimney with care. Now watch, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their bed, while visions of sugar plums danced in their head. Now that's a very meaningful phrase, but to most of you perhaps not as meaningful as it could be. For there is a word in this statement that is perhaps not common to most of you. This word nestle probably doesn't really communicate as it used to. When this was written, it had a different meaning altogether. You see, this word nestle is an old German word. It's usually seen in connection with chocolate. Nestled, nestled chocolate, all right. So the idea is that it's usually in context with chocolate. Chocolate usually connotes warm. If something is, if you want to connote a warm brown, you talk about it being a chocolate brown. Or hot chocolate warmth on a very cold evening. So you see, the writer was conveying something very, very tender. The children were all nestled. You see, all chocolatey warm. All snug in their bed, while visions of sugar plums danced in their head. That probably gives us an idea of how old they were. For if they were older, other things would be dancing in their head. All right, now he continues in this preparation for Santa Claus, and he says, and Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap. Now there Must be more, but that's all it says. Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window, I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. Now, here we do have to go to the manuscripts, because this really doesn't make sense as it's written. And so we have some help, because the better manuscripts read it this way. Away to the window, I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the hash. Well, that makes much more sense. Now, maybe it could be the Clemens house after all. The moon of the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eye should appear, now here it is, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. Now you see, we've moved out of the preparation, and now we're into the coming of St. Nick himself. Now notice what the writer said. Notice how he keeps everything so beautifully detailed. There was a miniature sleigh. There was 8 tiny reindeer. And there was a little old driver. You see how utterly ridiculous it would be if it wasn't that way? Can you imagine a miniature sleigh, 8 tiny reindeer, and a great big sloppy... Wouldn't work. Or can you imagine a great big host of reindeer and a little tiny sleigh? But see how the writer has so beautifully harmonized the material. It is a miniature sleigh. It is 8 tiny reindeer. And it's a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came. He whistled and shouted and called them by name. Isn't that tender? He knows each one by name. Not just, hey, you out there, get up. You team. No, each one by name. Oh, how beautiful. Now listen. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Praxen, now Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder, on Blitzen. Better read that again. On now Dasher, and Dancer, and Prancer, and Vixen, and Comet, and Cupid, and Donder, and Blitzen. Now let's get it settled once and for all. There is no Rudolph. Now let's just mark it down. Let's just mark it down right here tonight. That is a modernist lie that has been put into the story. And I am convinced by the communist. Red nose and all. But it's Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen and Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. Little soap commercial thrown in there in the middle here. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly when they meet with an obstacle mount up to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew. Now watch him. See his harmony? See how he keeps everything together? So up to the housetops the coursers they flew with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. See, you don't have the reindeer up there and the sleigh down here. Or the reindeer and the sleigh up there and St. Nick still sitting down on the couch. All right. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each tiny hoof. That's when you're glad they're little reindeer. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. Now we've moved out of the preparation and through the coming, and now we get to perhaps the meat of the matter. The actual description of Santa Claus himself. Now I want you to listen very carefully to what the writer has said. I am sure that you've read this many, many times and have missed what is really said. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot. Did you get it? Why does it say foot? Why doesn't it say feet? Obviously, he's dressed in fur to get warm. He's got fur all the way down one side, but only down to his foot. Evidently, the other side doesn't need fur, because that's a wooden leg. So the very first thing I want you to see about Santa Claus is that he's a one-legged man. Second, now listen, it says, his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. He's dirty. He's a dirty, one-legged old man. And they are probably the worst kind. But a dirty, one-legged old man. Now look, listen. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back. Now I ask you, what's a grown man doing running around with toys? He's senile. One-legged, dirty, old senile man. He looked like a peddler just opening his sack. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. Now I ask you, why would a man have a red nose? He's been hitting the bottle. He's a real alcoholic, this guy. This one-legged dirty old man. And in fact, obviously the writer has given us a clue. Did you notice it? His cheeks were like roses. Evidently 4 roses, obviously. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as snow. Obviously one of these old, bearded, dirty old men, you see. Unreliable character. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth. Now, what kind of a pipe? It could be a lead pipe. You see, but the author goes on to say, and the smoke, it encircles his head like a wreath. This alcoholic is smoking. I wonder what he's smoking. I wouldn't doubt it, would you? Pothead old man. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. That's just a polite way of saying he's sloppy fat. Fat, dirty, alcoholic, pothead, obese. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. I laughed when I saw him in spite of my, well, who wouldn't? I mean, if this guy came down your chimney, you'd even know. A wink of his eye. I don't think that's very nice. And a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word. Antisocial. Won't even talk to those that are around. Went straight to his work. Probably the only thing decent about the man. Filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk. Now, it's very important to watch the prepositions here. It says he turned with a jerk. It does not say he turned to a jerk. That would cast some kind of dispersion upon the writer. But it says he turned with a jerk. Evidently he has a helper. And it lets you know the kind of people that he travels around with. All right, and laying a finger aside of his nose. Now, I know that's not nice. I just know that's not nice. And giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Now let's make sure we see this last little statement, because there is, in this last expression, what we call in English an ellipsis. There is part of an expression missing, and it must be supplied by the reader. I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of his sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. To all what? There's something missing. Obviously there is a pronoun missing. So it would have to be, Happy Christmas to you all, and to you all a good night. So once and for all, he is not from the North Pole. He is from the South Pole.